Hey guys, Richard Oldner here. What happens sometimes when we're at West Tech is something rolls in that's like super cool. And that's what happened tonight. I'm working on the Cadillac right now, but I'm gonna show you what rolled in. I'm gonna do a little interview with the owner because I've never seen anything like this. And it's really, really cool. It's a Mustang, but it's a little unusual. Check it out. So it's very cool. Shelby front end, 65. Actually a road race car, spends time on the track. Here's the cool thing. And 200. Check that out. Not only is it 200, check out the head. Check out the intake. Check out this part right here. Down here, we got this. Very, very cool. What we're going to do now is talk to the owner and he's going to tell us a story about it. Because this thing is super cool. Okay, cool. Let's start off by telling everybody your name.
My name is Gus Garcia.
Okay, that is a super cool car on the chassis. Now, Ish right now is tuning this thing up. But tell us, first of all, what kind of car it is.
It's a 1965 Ford Mustang.
65? Okay. I saw that this thing has unusual, everybody else has a V8 in their car. Now this thing has a 6-cylinder, so tell us what 6-cylinder is and let's get into talking about it.
It's a 200 cubic inch stock motor. It would have been in the base model car, the Secretary's car.
So what did this car originally come with?
A 6-cylinder, 200
Nice.
cubic inch motor, yeah, that's right. It's originally a T-code from 65, which apparently people tell me that fastbacks with a T-code are rare. I don't know if that's true or not.
Fastbacks are rare enough, but I can't imagine the 200. That's super cool. Now, this 6-cylinder is not, I took a look at it, it's nowhere near stock. So let's talk a little bit about some of the cool things that you did to this motor.
Well, I had gotten the car in about 2014,
okay,
and it was completely 100% stock when I got it, meaning that it looked like a Secretary's car. And I had always wanted a fastback, but I couldn't afford the nice ones.
Sure.
So I had that with the intent of not doing throwing a whole bunch of money at it. And
so what, did it originally have the 6-cylinder or what transmission did it have?
a three-speed on the floor.
Okay.
I think it was called a Dagenham 3-speed is what they call it.
Cool.
And had the I think it's a 7 1/4 inch rear end, 4-lug hubs, 4-wheel drums.
Just minimal stuff.
The minimal basic stuff. And over time, I'd started upgrading things on it. I think I did the suspension first, and I did a 5-speed conversion to the rear with an adapter plate. But then I got to the point where most people do, where they get to decide, well, what am I going to do with this car? Am I going to spend a bunch of money on it? Am I going to go crazy with it? And I thought about doing a small block in it, but everybody does that.
Everybody.
And I found that the suspension stuff, since I had gone in that route first, people they seem to like the fact that when I go someplace and I pop the hood, it's a 6, right?
Because it's different and it's awesome.
Right.
It's the other guy.
Well, it wasn't awesome at the begining.
Sure.
It was just, I mean, it sounded cool. It sounded vaguely Italian with the way I had my, I had glass packs or something on it. And I thought it was weird enough, but I'd go places and people liked it. So I got to the point where I said, you know what, I'm going to build a motor, and I want to make it so that it's, it's a nice bump up from the stock stuff.
Sure.
And I built that motor that's in there now. I had originally built it naturally aspirated, and so it had, I think the stock pistons are like 8-to-1, and this one is a 10-to-1 with some flat top. They're not nice pistons; they're like cast. Like Ford had a 2.3 liter 4-cylinder.
Yeah. That
they came out later.
Yeah.
So this has those types of pistons, so they're flat tops. And the cylinder head is, as you and I spoke before, the cylinder head it's called the Classic INLINE cylinder head, and it was made by a company called Classic INLINE that doesn't exist anymore out in Arizona, and it's a copy of an Australian head. The Australian head is cast iron, but this one's aluminum. And
so this has to be a very rare head then.
Yeah. Like I said, there's another company out there called Vintage INLINEs, and allegedly they're selling them. But I haven't seen one myself that somebody is. But
so is there anything done to the head? Is there porting or anything?
No, head is completely stock. A buddy of mine, Kennard Deeds, who is out in San Fernando Valley, he built that motor for me, and he did all the the head stuff, put it all together. But If I remember, we didn't do anything to the head other than just kind of clean it up and just make sure that it, went.
Does that head have larger valves in it than
it
a
does.
factory head? Okay.
It does. I couldn't tell you exactly. I know the intakes are like 185s or something.
Okay.
I don't know what the exhaust size is, but I know that like the stock ones were probably.
So we've got more compression. We've got a really good cylinder head. So what about camshaft?
The camshaft, I couldn't tell you exactly what it is, but I did have, it's from Schneider Cams down in San Diego.
Yep, I know those guys.
Super cool guys.
Yep.
I called them and I spoke to them about 45 minutes and told them what I was going to do, and they built me a special grind. I got the cam card. I brought it with me in case you guys needed it.
Okay.
But
yeah, maybe if I could put those specs up on, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. But this cam is probably a little closer to stock, because before I had a more roundy cam when it was NA. And they were telling me, no, you can't have that. I don't know if that's true. People were saying that you have too much overlap. The boost will just go right out the exhaust.
Yeah.
So I swapped the cam when I did the turbo, and but the rest of the engine is stock in essence.
Okay.
Stock cam. Excuse me.
What about the intake
crank.
manifold?
Intake manifold is classic inlines as well.
Nice.
Yeah. So that was their setup as well. When you bought the head, you got the intake manifold with it. And it's set up, you could do a 2-barrel, 4-barrel on the top, you could just undo the bolts there.
And it also probably had a header on it when it was NA, right?
I did. I had an old Clifford style. It was a 6-into-1.
Yep.
Now this particular header that I have was built, was originally, I think it's fabricated. A gentleman down in Arizona, God, I can't remember the guy's name. I think his name is Will McLaren. His wife had she had a Falcon, but they had a 250 in hers, and his username was does 10s because he had a Falcon that did 10s,
nice.
Turbocharged, and so he made a few of these exhaust manifolds, and he sold. He didn't sell it to me, but it was like floating around in the inline 6 community small.
Sure.
This thing had been floating around. I picked it up. I saved it for a few years, and then when I decided to build this, I went, pulled it out, tried to put it on the car, but it wouldn't work with this head.
Okay.
So I had to go down in where I live, in the San Fernando Valley. There's a company called FabTech.
Yeah.
My buddy Jamie that works there, he did, he kind of set it up so that my turbo would live and sit in a nice spot, and he did a fantastic job too.
Sure. So this thing originally had, when you ran it NA, how much power did the thing make when it was NA?
100. I think it was 187 at the rear wheel.
Nice.
So we thought it was maybe about 220 at the crank. And I remember that the torque was like 209 foot-pounds.
Okay.
At the rear wheel.
So, and when the thing was NA, you got to take it out on the track and enjoy it, right?
Yes, correct. I used to. Well, I have been driving. I drive out sometimes with the LA Shelby Club. I have some other friends that Orange County Cobra Club. They drive up there at Willow Springs. That's mainly the track I drive at. Yeah. And so I've driven out there with them. I've driven Big Willow and Streets. Big Willow. The way I had the engine NA before. It's like, man, you top out pretty quick, right? 220, even 187 at the crank or at the wheels is not a whole lot of power.
Yeah, Willow is a big track.
Yeah. So Streets is a different story.
Is fun.
Yeah, that car is perfect for Streets.
So on this 6-cylinder, you obviously don't have the 3-speed transmission behind this thing anymore. So tell us a little bit about the transmission that you put in this thing.
Right now it has a T5Z.
Nice.
So I had a T5 of unknown provenance, and I had that for a while, and I didn't like the gearing on it. You have to shift right away. I don't know, it had like a 335 first.
Okay.
So this is a T5Z. I think it's got a 290 something first year, which makes it a little nicer. Yeah, it's worked great. And a couple buddies of mine have like 347s with it, make 400, 500 horsepower. T5Z lives behind that just fine. So I thought, man, behind this motor, it'll live forever.
Should be fine. So did you have to do anything to the bell housing? Does it have a V8 clutch in it, or what's going on with the transmission?
Yeah, so originally, like I said, it had an adapter plate. And what I found out as I did research, there's a whole bunch of people out there that have a lot more knowledge about those 6-cylinders than I do. And I found out that engine blocks from 79 to 81 have 4 of the 6 bolts line up perfectly with a small block forward bell housing. So the last 2 bolts are the ones at the very top, and they're slightly off, and you can machine a bell housing so that it fits it perfect, the 5/0 bell housing.
Nice.
So I did that. Again, my friend Kennard machined that for me, and then I ended up sourcing a neutral balance flywheel, and we re-drilled the holes so that it would line up with that crank, and then that gives you access to all the 5/0 clutches.
Oh, nice.
Because the stock 200 cubic inch clutches are terrible. At 100 horsepower, they're slipping.
Yeah.
So, you know, now it's like, it's, you know, everything I did to the car, I did it for reliability. I figured, you know, it's got an 8-inch rear end. You know, people are like, oh, 9-inch. And it's like, that's too much, you know, I'm going to lose a bunch of power trying to turn that. 8-inch rear end, you know, and, you know, the T5, everything I got behind it is meant to live behind a V8. So I'm like, it's going to be trouble-free for me.
So you're golden.
Yeah, exactly.
So is it an 8.8 like a 5-liter rear end?
No, it's a 65.
65?
65
Okay.
8-inch, yeah, 8-inch rear end.
Nice.
It's got right now. It's got 380 gears with a track lock in it, and I think I'm going to change it to a 355, just because again I feel like first gear is kind of like semi-useless.
Okay.
And you know, freeway cruising is probably a little. You know, I could stand it a little lower a little bit.
And what did you do to the suspension and brakes on this car?
So in the back, the 8-inch is stock, you know, 65 Mustang V8 drums. In the back suspension, I have a Phase 2 Watts link.
Okay.
So I did that. I put that on there. Tremendous, you know, it did a fantastic job of kind of controlling the rear end as you're going through the turns. I don't have any kind of like subframe connectors because I thought, well, I'm not putting enough power to you know, to need that. In the front, I have like boxed factory control arms with in the suspension bushings are the spherical kind at the lowers.
Yeah.
The uppers are blueprinted kind of factory style control arms that have, you know, they make sure that everything rides nice. I have Bilstein shocks all the way around. In the front, I have I think it's a 1 1/4 inch hollow Swaybar. And then what else? I got you know, solid adjustable the front. Oh gosh, the front bars that go to the front. I can't remember what they're called, but everything I did on that is like kind of meant to be improve the handling. And then
what springs did you use on it?
In the front, they are 620 inch. They're like the GT style springs.
Okay.
And I've cut probably 3/4 of a coil off of each side to lower the car down. I did the Shelby drop. People talk about that where you re-drill the upper control arm mount. In the back, they're like regular four leaf, but they're called mid-eyes, so they lower the car a little bit.
Okay.
And then I think I even have another lowering block, like 1 inch, to drop it in further, so it would like line up. The front brakes are probably the trickiest part of the suspension because the front brakes. I got a deal on them because they were, you know, they were in a shop that they were displayed that somebody knocked over and they messed up the powder coating. So they are replicas of I think 1969 Trans Am Boss 302 brakes that they competition brakes.
Excellent.
So they're 12-inch by 1 1/4 inch thick.
Are they Kelsey Hayes or who made them?
I think they must be Kelsey Hayes because they're when you buy parts for them, you have to go and ask like a 64 Lincoln or something like that. I got it written down at home, but they are massive. They're meant to be behind a gigantic Lincoln Continental or something, or Ford Galaxy or something. And you know, they are the biggest brake you could fit behind a 15-inch wheel.
Nice.
And so yeah, so that was kind of like when I got that. That was like, oh, cool.
So now you've added boost to this thing, and I'm assuming is it what kind of turbo is this thing? Is it an eBay turbo?
It's an eBay GT35 0.63 AR. I talked to a bunch of folks. I go to Ford 6 is a forum for Ford 6-cylinder folks, and there's a whole bunch of guys on there that were helping direct me on how to pick the right turbo. And a gentleman back east named Paul Muller. Super knowledgeable guy, super cool guy. You know, I talked to him on the phone a few times, and he was telling me, "Oh, you know, you got the right turbo, you picked it. Let me do the math," and he would come back and tell me it was awesome. So when I bought it, I was real confident that it would work with my motor, and you know, put it on there, and it worked fantastic. It worked really good.
I think that's an excellent choice for that power output and that displacement and stuff. So let's take a walk out there and find out how Ish is doing and see how much power it makes.
Sounds good.
Excellent. Okay guys, what do you think about our other guys' 1965 fastback Mustang? I mean, this thing had everything going for it. It was a fastback Mustang. It had cool suspension, it had big brakes, but most importantly, it had the other guy's inline 6-cylinder, that 200-inch motor, and not just a stock one, but a modified one. It had an aluminum head, it had a camshaft, it had a cool intake manifold, and best of all, it had fuel injection. But top it all off, it had turbocharging, so it had everything that it needed. But just to show you that it doesn't always go right in the performance world, and sometimes it seems like it never goes right when I want to do dyno testing, but it just doesn't always go right. And this was a perfect example, but I want you guys to let me know what you think went wrong. We could not get enough fuel to this combination under boost. It had big enough injectors, it had a big enough fuel pump, it had plenty of fuel pressure, that never dropped off. But we could not dial this thing. We could not, Ish could not get enough fuel to this thing to make this thing run in a safe manner on the dyno. So let me know what you think it is. Was it the Phytech fuel injection? No, we've used this before in the past, the throttle body injection, it worked well. Was it that? Was it the intake design on an inline 6-cylinder? It has a centrally mounted carburetor, or in this case, fuel injection unit. It has different runner lengths. The outside runners are much longer than the inner ones, so we get different fuel supply to each one of the cylinders. Or was it the carb hat, or the blow-through carb hat, the bonnet? It was a flat design because of hood clearance. Maybe that was a problem. Let me know what you guys think it is, but remember, I'm Richard Holder. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, ring the bell. Also, check out the other guys' playlist. Lots of cool other guys' stuff. We're going to put this one up there. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, ring the bell, do all that stuff. Thanks for watching, guys.